Welcome back to The Good Talk, the show where we discuss what's hot, what's grot, and everything in between in the wide world of Warhammer. My name is Adrian, and I'm joined today by Tattooed Tabletop here all the way from the old middle of the US of A. Happy to have you back on the stream today. Flesh Eater Courts for the first time ever on channel history against the Skaven. So it was an absolute blast, really fun. I won't spoil it, but it was a very close game.
One might nibble at one's cuticles, one might say.
Yeah. It's a real cuticle biter for sure. So welcome in, everybody. Hopefully you're having a lovely day. As always with these live streams, I'm going to have to, oh no. Lindsay, I got to change the resolution. This is going to mess it up. We're going to give everyone a second to kind of filter into the stream today. And as we do generally on Thursdays. Fix that. That is a good question. We're going to go offline for just a second. We'll be right back. We're not going to end the stream, so it might freeze. All right, let's see. Are we reconnected? Perfect. I'm going to assume we're back. What's up, everybody? Sorry about that. We have we use OBS actually for our recordings in here. This is where we shoot all the Trench Crusade stuff. So we switch over to a high resolution for the recordings, but it will eventually crash YouTube because there's just too much going on. So we are back. Yeah, make sure you all leave a comment below and like, subscribe if you want to see more of this content. With that, let's dive on in. So, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's great. If you're not familiar with Tattoo Tabletop, we do have a link in the description down below. I guess maybe the first question is, do you want to just say a bit about yourself, just to give it a bit of context of who the heck you are and why are we going to talk about how you started Warhammer?
It's very fair. So I'm, obviously, as you said, Tattoo Tabletop. I'm from Minnesota, the nice frozen and also equally hot place at the same time. Right. So I do pretty much all things Warhammer. I really got my start, and I've always done Age of Sigmar, and I've done a lot of 40K, but I've always kind of expanded. I've always loved both games, and as a whole, I've just made the channel sharing positivity about both and all war games, period, because, you know, it's something that I got into when I was much older. As a full adult, I know a lot of people that I've always talked to were always like, oh, I started this when I was a kid and I fell out and I came back in or something like that. And for me, it was interesting because I came in when I was about 26 or 27. Yeah. And I remember that kind of feeling. And it's basically getting into it. I ended up getting so much more involved than I ever anticipated. It became more than just a hobby for me. It became such a massive passion. And it's a passion that obviously drove me here eventually.
Well, flew you actually.
Yeah, flew me here, and I've gone over to Vanguard Tactics and stuff like that, and seen Warhammer World, and it's been a bigger adventure than I ever would have anticipated, and I just want to share that positivity with you all.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome stuff. So definitely go ahead and check it down below, and if you like it, give it a like, subscribe. Always cool to show an upcoming creator some love because it is cool stuff. And as you know, we work with people who kind of have the same ethos, same mentality, same energy as us. So. Really glad to have you on. We will be, of course, doing a game later on. You'll be facing against Little B, and we're going to be doing both of the new books, Grey Knights versus the Black Templars. It's going to be a. I didn't even know this.
Yeah, no, I brought my Helbrecht
graphic
shirt. We came prepared.
That's sick. I love it. So yeah, let's dive on into it. So today we're talking about how did we get started in the hobby. So you mentioned a little bit already, actually. You came to this hobby a bit late in life.
Very late.
You're so old.
Oh yes, very late. This is hiding gray, a significant amount of the gray. So for me, it was also kind of interesting because my very first experience, and for anyone from the Midwest, this might send you back a good 2 or 3 decades. My first experience was in a card shop named Schindler's.
Oh, interesting.
And it was this like Midwest group or wherever, and I always went in for Pokemon cards. That's what my dad took me there for. And I remember I made my way to the back because I saw some people playing a game back there, and they were moving these models around, these armies, and if I recall correctly, it was Warhammer Fantasy Battles. And
classic.
I was a very, very shy kid, very, very quiet, and I just watched for a little bit, and eventually I got to I got the courage up, and I was like, how do you get into this? This looks incredible. And they were just like, oh yeah, it's called Warhammer and everything. And they're like, so you just need $700, which to an 11-year-old, you might as well have said just like $1 million bajillion. And so I was just off.
Right.
After that, I mean, I've always been a strategy game nerd. Age of Empires, StarCraft, Warcraft, Total War. I played every single Total War as
So
it came
good.
out. Absolutely adored it. And that's what eventually kind of started helping me make my way there.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I saw Total War announced, Warhammer Total War,
Right.
and it kind of clicked with me because I had played the Dawn of War series and stuff like that. I was like, wow, they're going to fantasy version.
Right.
This is interesting. I built a computer for it.
Oh wow! So,
So
you
I
went deep in.
full send, built a whole new computer for it, picked up the game, and I remember getting an email.
Yeah.
And there was like, go paint the miniatures that this game is based on. And I was just like, okay. And I thought it was a coupon. It was not. It was just an invitation.
It was
'Cause
just an invitation.
As anyone who knows who's gone to a Games Workshop, you can just go and learn how to paint a miniature for the first time ever.
It's the one-click bundle.
Yeah,
Where
the
you're
one-click
like,
bundle.
What's the saving? You're like, you get the stuff.
Oh, I got so like the store manager's like, coupon, what are you talking about? But I went with a friend, and at the time I was going to go into Sigmar, and so I painted a Stormcast Eternal, and I just remember, as someone who's kind of had like a ton of anxiety and had mental health, like how peaceful it was. Just like that immediate just like flow over of just, I'm like, this is like so relaxing. And that was like one of the first things that really just latched on for me. Was that just that moment of calm of just painting this thing and like adding the colors that I wanted to and stuff like that. And that was really the humble beginning of it all.
That's really cool. Like, I mean, that is definitely a thing. Like that, just having something physical to focus on that's completely detached and unplugged from everything else. I think that's a big draw for people. And I mean, it's kind of been proven to even be like a good kind of therapeutic technique. Our buddy Liam over the pond, of course, is working with. I feel back, I'm blanking on the name, but it's a program working with veterans, and it's a similar sort of thing because like this hobby is so just like grounding and physical and immersive, right?
Yeah.
It really does a lot for folks.
Yeah, and I especially because I never thought that I would be artistically inclined, because like both my sisters are both phenomenal drawers and painters and stuff like that.
You never drew anything?
Oh no, I tried.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I tried really hard. Like I remember getting the art teacher from middle school that had both my sisters, and he's just like, "You're an Amundsen, you can totally draw."
Oh, the pressure.
And then he's like, "Draw a dolphin." And I drew something. He comes over, he's like, "What's that?" And I was just like, "A dolphin?" And he's just like, "No, it's not." And I was like, "Cool." So it was weird to now have that kind of expression, like to have that kind of means of that, and slowly but surely I worked in further, and I mean I still remember my very first set of models, which I believe was the 8th edition Start Collecting Space Marines that had Terminator Captain, 10 Tacticals, and a Venerable Dreadnought.
Yeah.
2 cans of Dark Angels Green and Xandri Dust, because
Classic.
you'll see why the Xandri Dust here in a hot second. And upgrades proof of Dark Angel shoulder pads, because of course I decided I was going to go with Dark Angels as showcased by my arm.
Checks out.
And then Deathwing Knights. Like I wasn't planning on buying the Deathwing Knights, but I was just like, but these are the really cool ones.
Got it.
I got
Go with
it.
the Dark
You
Angels.
got it.
Oh,
So
sick.
I remember picking those up, and I mean specifically, just to kind of even talk about the mental health. Like I remember, you're 27 years old, you're full adult. I remember thinking to myself repeatedly, like, am I going to buy plastic toys to build them? And like, I remember feeling so kind of, I don't, the word I think is kind of shame. And it was really weird. And I, just kind of that outside pressure of like what that is. But obviously looking at it now, sitting here, it's not so ridiculous anymore. And it's incredible. And I've been so happy to share that passion with people like me who got started later. And I know there's a ton of people who got started over COVID, and they had something to do. And now the community's as big as it is, it's massive and it's incredible.
It's grown so fast, and you talk about like acceptance. It's become also much more accepted, much more popular. It's seeing such an interesting shift, which is cool. Obviously there's going to be a lot of baggage that comes with that, but like generally speaking, being able to like bring this to more folks and folks who wouldn't have done it before, or for whatever reason, whether it be they're like embarrassed to do it, or they don't think it's for them, they don't think they have the artistic capability. It's really, really opening up through, again, things like this media. We have, of course, Total War, we have Space Marine 2, things like that. And then now, of course, it's even on Amazon, which is wild.
Massive.
So,
and it's incredible to see the community continue to get bigger, and also just to have so many facets to it, right? Like you mentioned, like the painting. I mean, we follow Golden Demon regularly,
Right.
you know, like all the incredible painters, and we're seeing different styles and different takes. And like when you compare Golden Demon even 5 years ago to now, it's just a whole nother level
Very
of just
different.
insane creativity. And then you have the competitive side and how, you know, things have evolved there.
Hugely exploded.
Which it's incredible because there's something there for everybody, which is always fantastic.
That's the thing that keeps me in this, honestly, is it's this cycle of I'm painting my models. I'm excited to paint them so that I can play them, and then I play them, and that hypes me up, and then I want to paint them, work on them more, and like the books and the other games are kind of in there as well, and they all kind of feed each other in this cycle, and they're all different kind of hobbies. Like for some people, they would just play a game. Some people, they would just paint. They would just whatever. And in this hobby, it's like you can do all these things, and they all kind of scratch a bit of a different part of your brain, you know?
I'm always blown away by people who can kit bash really well. Like
Yeah,
people
yeah,
who
yeah.
are really good kit bashers. I'm just like, how do you do this? And they like break down every kit that they had that they took from like the individual pieces or like chopping up certain bits. And they're just like, and then I just casually green stuffed and did like this entire beard. Valbjorn, if I recall, is like
That's
one
what
of the
I was
main.
thinking.
Yep. And I'm like rolling my green stuff together. I'm like, well, that's kind of scratchy. Maybe if I just like lick my finger and just do this a lot, it'll smooth itself out. And don't do that.
And that's okay too. You know, you can do it however you want. You know. Yeah. I do want to, give a shout out to everyone in chat who are giving kind of their origins on how they got started in Warhammer. I do want to hear. Let us know how did you get started in it. Also, first of all, Robo Zombie says, yeah, Shinders, Minnesota proud.
That's a deep cut. That is a deep cut. I used to go to my Shinders was in Burnsville. Was the one that I went to repeatedly.
Oh, this is a chain called Shinders.
Yeah, so it started off as
not chain.
No, it started off as a really small one, and then it like rapidly expanded. There's like documentaries on this thing for other reasons too, but we won't get into those reasons.
Yeah.
But specifically, like that was the one that I went to, and it was right next to the. Oh, it's gonna get me. There was a music shop because I always remember like going by and there'd be people like buying trumpets and stuff, and I'd just be walking in for Pokemon cards and stuff like that. But
that's awesome.
yeah, I mean that was my youngest exposure to it, and just going up through that is just it is kind of insane, and just like coming back around, 27 and like now where I'm at, affectionately named James Workshop in my local community, because I have almost a studio level amount of armies without a studio.
It's so good. It's so addicting, you know?
If they just write the armies poorly, but unfortunately they're all cool and they're all compelling, and I love them.
And from being content creator in the space, like part of the problem of Warhammer is that all these armies are cool. They're all awesome. Like every time I work on one or play one for a stream, or whatever, I'm like, oh, I want to work on this. It feeds into itself. Now remember, folks, YouTube's doing the weird name thing. So if I don't recognize your name or it's a different name, that's my apologies on behalf of Google, I guess. Like, it's annoying. So this name I recognize, however. Thank you, Ricky, for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Ricky says, you really want to know how I got into Warhammer? I blame you. You've thrown me into this rabbit hole since the sweater days and witch yeeting. Yes. I'm so sorry, Ricky.
I'm not sorry for him on his behalf.
Yes. And now Ricky has a beautiful Harlequin army. We actually got to play at CTC last year. It was a blast. So happy to have you part of the community. Really thankful for that.
And that's a skill within itself. You picked a Harlequin army.
Oh my gosh!
You think I'm doing diamond patterns on anything?
Yeah.
No.
Difficult army to paint and to play.
Agreed.
So
high skill ceiling.
Speaking of which, CTC tickets just went on sale today. So hopefully be seeing you there next year, Ricky. Let's see. We also have Raptor says, sending this from 5G, so bear with. But I got started in the hobby because my longtime friend Tobias Fate, who's a League of Legends streamer, never stopped talking about 40k. So I looked for a faction I could and stopped in Drazar, the Master of Blades. Oh, so sick.
Absolutely.
We love a good specialist. And then we have, again, all the names are different. Stock of, who says, Bellicor was my first model because I needed a Demon Lord for our D&D campaign, and that's that. Oh,
that'll do it.
The gateway drug. I love the old metal, and I guess later on maybe a resin Bellicor. Such a great model. I would still love to get one for like a Demon Prince.
He got immensely taller.
He did,
immensely taller.
I recall that was one of the first models where I was like really, there's a few like White Dwarf paintings of like Golden Demon paintings in a White Dwarf of him, and I was like, wow, I really want to be able to do that one day. It was so cool. Andimus says, I got Man of War for my 11th birthday, and that was my gateway to Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Man of War, that's awesome. I do miss. I never played Man of War, but Warhammer Fantasy used to have nautical rules.
Yep.
So my brother and I, when we were like, I don't know, 12, 14, during the summers, we would do campaigns and we would like build our boats. And so he'd play Lizardmen, and he would make his ships out of, those green blocks that are for like fake plants that you stab into from like Michael's. Yep. So he would get those and carve them with a knife. And of course, like, it's a horrible thing to build your stuff out of because it like just constantly disintegrates. And so he would like carve out what looks like a stone ship because they were Lizardmen.
Yeah, of course.
And then I had my goblins, so I would make my little goblin rafts out of popsicle sticks. And I'd have all my little rafts, and he'd have his Lizardmen. It was just like such good times.
There was a computer game of it too.
Oh, Man of War?
For a brief time, because I remember looking at it, and by the time I had looked at picking it up, I think it might still be on Steam. I'm not sure. Chat, let me know. But like,
yeah, I'm curious. I've actually
at one point, I think I went and I almost wish listed every single like Warhammer game in the field.
It's bad now. There's so
insane.
many, and there's even a few that are good.
That's true. My shout out is I adored Warhammer 40,000 Deathwing.
Deathwing. Oh yeah.
Yes.
That one's good.
I thought that one was really good because it was like first person. You were playing Deathwing Terminators, which of course is an auto win for me. And like I loved the design. Like to me, that was like the first game when I was playing it that really captured 40K.
Yeah,
what it looked like in the ships, like the derelict ships and like the gene stealers and
really immersing you in that world.
It was really well done, and it was a shorter game, which is probably what made it like struggle a little bit. But like I adored it. I thought it was so cool to just play that, and then they did like an enhanced edition later.
That's right. And there's a second one out, I think maybe.
I don't know quite yet.
Thinking about the enhanced.
Yeah, the enhanced. Yeah, the enhanced was like the re-release of it that was like fixed up.
Yeah.
I loved it, and like you could customize your armor and everything. It was so cool.
Oh, so great. Damned Legion says reading White Dwarf magazine at the local library. Oh, library, interesting.
That's cool.
In the early 90s, brought 9th edition recruit box in 2019. So longtime fan, and then jumped in about 6 years ago. That's really interesting. And I think that's something, I think your story, Damned Legion, is a little bit uncommon, but I think it's a story we're going to see more and more often.
Oh, absolutely.
As people get exposed to like the lore, through other things, and then they jump into the game later. So that's very interesting that you were kind of consuming the other parts of the game that far and ahead. Will talks about digital designers, one of our mods, asking him to play this fun game on TTS. Anyway, 4 armies later. I'm shocked that TTS converted you, because I would immediately be like, nah, this is not for me.
Yeah,
if that was my intro to Warhammer.
I've learned how to do TTS, not well, mind you, but and
it's
also
tough.
for me, I'm a very tactile person, because even like for something like movies, my movies are organized by genre and alphabetical, and except for my war movies, because they're organized by when they happened in time.
Oh, that's
because
cool.
I'm a history nerd.
Yes.
But like there's something aesthetically pleasing to me to like going over to the shelf and like picking it out. That being said, I do love that TTS has brought people in, and that it's been a fun digital way to like test lists and stuff like that, and like mods have really kicked up.
It's a couple things, right? It's one, obviously COVID, which we've talked about doing, actually incredible things for the hobby, because we were all forced to sort of be in our homes by ourselves. We also couldn't play what was a very physical game. So TTS really helped us kind of connect with people and play. And then also, as you mentioned, accessibility. Like, this is an expensive hobby. It's a lot of stuff. It costs money, costs time. And I'm definitely a proponent of like, buy the models that look cool. However, if there's models that are like miserable to play, you might not know that until you've played them. So it's nice to be able to try things out and find something if your hobby involves also playing a lot as well as painting and building. And so it's done some really cool things that I think I would have never expected before COVID times,
Absolutely.
KD says, Rob Zombie says, continuing the Minnesota connection, my intro was an epic 40,000 pamphlet at a comic shop called The Source.
I regularly go to The Source.
Yeah?
Yep.
Oh
That's up in kind of like northern Minneapolis, like just above the Twin Cities.
Oh, okay.
One of the things I always like to do is on weekends occasionally, I just like to look up hobby shops near me. Yeah. And I will, if I've never been there, I'll drive. I don't care if it's like 2 hours, I just love seeing that. But The Source was one that I found really, really, really quickly. The Hub Hobbies, there's two of them. Yep. My home store is The Forge in Chaska. If you check out the channel, they actually sponsor me. They're part of they're part of the reason I actually also started a channel, because the store owner actually encouraged me to start a channel, which was super, super, super huge for me.
You need that, honestly.
Shout out to Bert at The Forge.
What's up, Bert? This age of like 11 does seem to be a very common age for people to kind of get into it. I think for me it was pretty similar. KD says, walked by a Games Workshop. I was about 11. Holiday and birthday presents for the next about 3 years consisted of nothing but Warhammer. Look, I don't think it's ever stopped. Employees kept telling me store wasn't going anywhere, but it closed.
Oh,
yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Games Workshop store. I'm curious, Katie, was this also in a mall? Because that's the time that I got started. There was Games Workshop store down the road at the mall, and obviously those are all gone. But a lot of fond memories, like the teenagers and the preteens, it'll be like, let's go to the mall, blah blah blah, and there's all these clothing stores and things like that. But for me,
where's the plastic store?
The Games Workshop store. And with them gone, I'm like, man, malls lost a lot of love for me.
They really did.
Yeah. But I started. So I have a kind of a weird story where I've been doing miniatures for like basically as long as I've been able to. So my dad actually got me into it because he was into Warhammer, into D&D, into Magic, all that stuff. And obviously, so I'm one of 4 boys. And when you got kids, you don't always have time for it, especially when they're young, which is another trend that we do see in Warhammer is people often stop for a little bit when they have kids or when they go to college, are kind of the 2 of the big gaps, and they come back to it later. So in my case, it was kind of my dad, as I was starting to become old enough to not like eat the paint. I mean, having the old like flat 2D kind of goblins, the night goblins actually, and kind of painting those. And he made like custom rules that were like simplified rules for us to play, but 4th edition, which I was like 11 or 12, that was coming out, and my dad was like, okay, you're old enough, it's time. We're gonna learn the real rules. And we went to the Games Workshop store in the mall, and we bought the very first copy of the rule book, and we got a almost maybe life-size bolter shell.
Oh, that's
which
insane.
Is so cool.
That's cool.
That we've since lost, unfortunately. But I know.
No.
It's like, it broke my heart, and it was just so cool. And we actually got started with Escalation League at the mall there, and just a little bit at a time, and yeah, so that's...
And I think, to your point, that's a trend that has continued as well. One of the things that was extremely heartwarming to me is I was able to go to the Tacoma Open, the Warhammer Tacoma Open, or not Tacoma, sorry, Tampa. I knew it started with a T. Yeah. But I went down there and I played someone, they were playing their Fire Slayers or whatever, and he was just like, oh yeah, like me and my son play. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then he's like, he's over there. And his son's playing a Seraphon army, and they're both like, and I look at him like, you did a really good job on your models. He's like, actually, my son painted them. I was like, well, I'll go tell your son that he did a phenomenal job. And it was just, it's cool when you see these father-son duos like playing in tournaments together, or like even not even just like doubles, but they'll actually play like in like the RTTs, they'll play in the GTs together, and like that's becoming its own thing, and that's incredible because that's introducing them to the hobby, number one, and then it's also introducing them to like communities and like it's kind of a fun socialization.
It's a great socialization, and creativity and critical thinking, all that stuff. It's a cool and great thing to kind of do with your kid, and it just grows. And every year, Nova Open. My dad signs up for his one event a year, and then we go and have a great time. We cram in a bunch of games right before because you haven't played since last year, so we got to learn the new.
Got to catch up,
and it's just really great. So like really cool thing to be able to do with your kids or even your partner. Great way to kind of get people into it. Also, I'm loving seeing all these great names. This is fantastic, folks. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Yeah. If you're liking the content, hit that like, subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of the community. Let's see. Caligrass says, I went to GW stop with my father. I think I was around 7 or 8 because I'm a Lord of the Rings addicted to start with and discovered Warhammer like that. And then totally forgot for several years existed. I think Lord of the Rings was another big kind of cultural breakpoint for this because Games Workshop had invested so heavily in literally the miniatures for the game. And that's another really side.
I would say it was a turning point too because it was a pretty nerdy like subject. Like Lord of the Rings is like a fantasy book that eventually went on to win Best Picture.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. That's
yeah.
like the fact that even existed, that happens is incredible. And that's I think that was a big turning point because I didn't read the books or anything, but I got immediately sucked into that world right after seeing Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
I remember going at midnight for Return of the King, and our seats kind of got split. So I got sat next to the stranger guy, and then he was just like, "Oh, who's your favorite character?" And I was like, "Oh, I love this." And like my parents were just smirking. They're just like, he just found a new best friend. It's like they were just so happy it wasn't me doing that to them.
Right.
It was just they're like, "We can keep him over there. He's happy as can be." I had school the next day too, and they're like, "All right, fine." We'll do this at midnight." That was incredible.
I love that. I want to give a big special thank you to Tormus for gifting 10 Tabletop Titans memberships. Really appreciate it. And of course, all 10 of you, make sure you check out all that extra behind the scenes content, extra Tuesday games. We got Trench Crusade campaign progression even coming out tomorrow. It's a great time to be a member.
There's fantastic stuff in there.
I think so. And Gallows says, started in '87. We had to get a lift to the neighboring town to go to a hobby shop with the unfortunate name of Cumcraft. Being serious, it was big. I read that before Anyways, that's awesome. '87. Wow. I mean, it's not the year the game started. It's not Rogue Trader edition. First edition.
I wasn't alive.
Wow. I love it. Well, so glad that you've been with it for so long. And I think that's, again, we're talking about trends and patterns. People stick with this thing for a long time. They might leave it, as some people have also mentioned in chat, and then they come back to it when they're ready. I didn't play when I was in college very much because there's just no space. You don't know anyone who's playing. Came back for grad school, picked it right back up. Also, a big thank you to Hardborn from Vortex Games up in ye old Canada land. Thank you for 5 more Tabletop Titans and memberships. Amazing. I know the name, but I didn't know if I wanted me to dox you. I'll say the other names if you want. I can dox you. Let's see, Hardborn, not going to be able to make the stream tonight, so sending now. No worries.
Okay, check it out later.
Yeah, we'll be there after the fact.
You can look at me flowing through the book like 3s, I think.
Right. I'm really excited for that game.
I'm very excited.
We haven't had too many games with the new books, so I'm excited to see them.
Let's see if I can make them work.
I know, right?
I'm very excited. But Black Templars has been kind of my main for 10th edition. I am really excited to go into my Space Wolves, But I mean, obviously, my honor is my life. I must let none dispute it.
You gotta show Lil B how to Helbricht. He just doesn't respect the man enough.
You know, I honestly thought about that. Like when I saw the game, he just kept missing. I was just like,
he doesn't respect him.
I was like, let me just fly over here. I'll just take care of it.
We need to fix this. Exactly. Let's see. Kato says, I was introed by a friend around 11 again. Got into it, so I co-hosted a podcast about it from 3 years old. From about 3 years. What? Fell out of it, got back in 2020, and 10 minutes after ordering, my wife told that she was pregnant. Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Big life events. That's so cool. Got from about 3 years old. 3 years, I'm still piecing that together myself. Yeah, exactly. But that's amazing.
That's cool.
And it's cool being able to tie it to key life moments. It's been cool just even seeing people who have had kids ever since we started this channel and seeing them grow up. Yeah. And hopefully being in a hobby household, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for about 3 years. Yeah. Okay,
I figured, but
he's just like, all right. This podcast is brought to you by the letter A. Also,
A is for Astartes. I love it.
Perfect.
So yeah, I think we're talking about moments that we were introduced to this game, this hobby. We're also talking about the thing that kind of really hooked us on it. And for me, a big thing was, mentioned kit bashing, was White Dwarf. Because White Dwarf, especially back in the day, was so much about the building, the painting, the hobbying, the storytelling. I mean, before we had YouTube, the battle reports were in White Dwarf. And you would read it, be like, oh my God, what's going to happen in the next paragraph? What a crazy concept to think about. But I think, White Dwarf was a huge influence on me. And frankly, was a big influence on even the starting of the channel, because we said, okay, well, what do we want to do here? Well, we want to make something that gave us the same feeling as White Dwarf, and that was to be aspirational. If we're gonna have the privilege to get all this space and spend all this time on Warhammer, let's try to make cool, epic boards and have fun games, and really make something that people are like, that's cool, I want to do that. And for me, originally, that was White Dwarf. Yeah. And I think, let me know in chat how many of you got started with White Dwarf or one of those magazines. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I mean, even now, I think it's still it can be just as inspirational because there's, often a lot of painting tips in there. And one of the things that's always pulled me and always driven a lot of my passion for it is the miniature photography.
Oh yeah,
it's insane. Like I just
doing the setup,
telling the stories. I mean, and again, like when I went to Warhammer Worlds a few years ago now, quite a few years ago, other than my last visit, I just remember seeing the dioramas for the first time, and I was immediately just like, I wanted to stand there for like 20 minutes and just analyze each individual piece and like all the stories. I was reading all the plaques and everything like that, and it was, and that's what also, because like that's what initially drew me when I was 11 years old. I saw these people with these armies on the table and they're moving around and there's terrain set up and everything, and like even when I didn't know the rules, I was just like, the battle was like playing out in front of me that I could like see in my mind and stuff like that, and it was just, it's always incredible to see that, and I think White Dwarf still does a lot of that. You know, you see these big epic covers and they'll talk about specific factions. I mean, I remember when Usharan was on his big cover, the Dark Souls boss himself.
Exactly.
Oh, love it. And so it's interesting to see how it's evolved beyond. It's still print media along with the digital side as well.
Yeah, exactly. This idea of like photography and like setting up these dioramas is so interesting, because if the thing that we do is weird, the dioramas is even weirder, you know? It's like we set up this like moment in time for these things, and you're not touching them, they're just like set up, and you're kind of appreciating this like image that you've crafted. Yep. And it's I don't know, it's really interesting. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I think I want to try some like lore videos that are based around physical models. You know, basically kind of like war zones that we do at the beginning of games or do for Trench Crusade, but like do a whole thing, you know, documentary on such and such, and kind of take that tradition of dioramas, of, you know, miniature photography, and just kind of lean into that.
Well, I mean that sounds incredible to me, because especially because that's what also drives somebody into that model, right? You know, we picked up models because of like certain rules and stuff like that. But what I'm interested in is when I pick up a codex and there's a new model, I flip to that page that describes it and tells the background of it and like its role in that army and like where it came from and stuff like that. And that's like or like a new character.
When you've been talking about like the special edition Votan book that they just showed, and you're just like, I want to get that. Like that's cool, you know, and that kind of storytelling is really compelling.
The artwork alone, like this, it has like the best way I always describe it is like a Blade Runner-esque feel, like to seeing like the cities and stuff like that, and the color palettes and stuff like that I adore, and it draws me, and that's what really draws me into a model more than anything else, is understanding what this model represents. Usharan represents this vampire who is caged for rebelling against Nagash, and literally just this hunched over, like you can never tell if he's telling the truth, if he's lying, and he's like putting on a play for people, and it's just, it draws you in deeper to it.
Exactly. It's so compelling. My God, the screen is green.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Mr. John McCardle, for donating 20 Tabletop Titans memberships. Hopefully you're doing well. John, I wonder how you got into this hobby. I'd be really curious.
That's, especially since you are single-handedly funding miniature wargaming for all of us, which is incredible.
Exactly. Really allowing all these new people to become part of it. Oh, Pure Tide program. We got you, buddy. Yep. That's really funny. I want to say thank you to, I guess we'll do it this way. Thanks, T, for the super chat. T says, my first 40K experience, a friend and his friend were teaching me. I picked orcs, and the other guy used his cow, right? Built the terrain and put all his models high on the second floor on a ruin in 8th edition. No. Oh, that's amazing. This concept of like friends doing demos is also a thing. Yep. I've found it to be of, I will say limited success. I'll say that. I think we're all super passionate about this. It's so hard to convey why this game is cool in like just a short amount of time, you know? So like you need to like get everything set up beforehand and make it nice and easy for them to experience, but also show them the depth, you know, like, so Shane, who obviously you all know from the channel, I mean, I tried to get him to 40K specifically for many years when we were kids. And you mentioned it's also hard when you're a kid because it's an expensive hobby.
It can be.
So I do have the privilege of like, my dad was playing, so there was like models I could access.
Absolutely.
And I'd be like, let's go do it. Like, I'll do a demo. You know, here's my striking scorpions. Here you can fight these chaos space marines, and you run the demos. And I'd had them do this several times. I just couldn't quite hook them. It wasn't until again coming back from college, and funny enough, Frontline had moved into my local. My hometown.
That's pretty good.
And he's like, yeah, there's like Warhammer, and this guy's name's Reese. And I'm just like, he's like, yeah, so I'm into Warhammer now. I'm like, are you kidding me? I tried for years. Reese shows up.
Also, shout out to Rick D, Fire Slayers. Respect.
Fire Slayers.
Yeah, I do love my Fire Slayers. But yeah, I mean, and I will say this too, as someone who adores the game, who plays the game, I admit I am a terrible demonstrator for somebody.
Yeah.
This is
hard.
a personal
It's
gap
skill.
of mine, and like so. When someone is looking for like an introductory game or something like that, oftentimes what I do is because my interaction with the community, I usually have them reach out to somebody who loves doing that. There's a lot of people in your community who probably love showing these games off and can do so in a really good, approachable way. Yeah. So, I mean, shout out to those people because those are people who do help get people into it. And, for someone like myself, as passionate as I am, if someone was to be like, hey, could you show me how to play 40K? I'm like, I can show you a few things. But I'm going to refer you to this person in the community, or maybe you want to learn some courses. And, as we know, I'm a big proponent of Vanguard Tactics. And they have academies, and these things are so accessible. So I always recommend them to that. I'm just like, they get updated. This will walk you through step by step, and it's incredible that we have that now too. That is something that is in existence. There is a step-by-step process on how to do this.
Precisely. Following up, T also says, I still hate town to this day. Yeah. Later, my friend painting experience was painting my friend's boys. I remember when I was painting a orc booty and thinking, what have I done with my life?
You made the right decision.
They got those booties. Those boys they're twerking for sure.
The cheeks.
Yeah.
The cheeks of the wah.
It's so good. I love that. It was a very formative experience. This trauma of the town. And before we do John's super chat, Cyrank says, and then in 2001, Tau came out, and I was hooked. Very much remember that. Oh, I missed the first part. They say, mentor of 40K was Buddy's uncle was a 40K player during Desert Storm and bought my buddy the Battle of Macragge box set. Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
Have you seen those pictures of like soldiers playing with like rocks as Warhammer models?
Yep.
So like, gamers will find a way.
We'll
find
absolutely.
a way to make it work.
And
so cool.
especially like, because the hobby is engaging and it's to the point therapeutic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome that they were able to do that. Just like set up a table and just play.
Exactly. And then John, again, thank you for the generous super chat. Really appreciate that. John says, I started to make my wife mad. What? Seriously, I started 20 years ago, and he corrects, probably actually 25 years ago, after watching people play at the local comic shop. Tower coming out, and they looked cool, and also the owner convinced me to start with them. Wow, John, you're a Tau player. But then saw Thousand Suns and never looked back on CSM. That's awesome.
That's fair. Yeah.
Oh man, I could not see you being a Tau player. Although no, okay, yeah. I was gonna say he is a Votann player, but that's actually on brand. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, been in the same boat, John. There have been times where when my wife walks into my room and looks and she's like, "Your room gives me anxiety."
What
I'm
have
like,
you done?
sometimes it does to me too, but like. I've been very fortunate in the fact that she's seen the passion, she's seen the experiences, and she is so supportive. So in the event that she sees this, Ashley, love you very much. Thank you so much for supporting me.
Totally.
It's incredible.
What you have to do is you have to convince them to become part of the problem.
Oh.
They'll be like, Mel, you got to clean your space wolves. And I'm like, yes,
I started.
finally.
Yep. See, I started that. We did a little bit of Spearhead when Spearhead
nice.
launched
That's
recently. And I was like walking her through the rules, and of course it takes a while because she's never played anything like this.
Yeah.
But I run my Crypt Guard into her, and her 5 Liberators just wiped out, and she's like, "You're really bad at this game." And I was like,
Yeah.
watch it. I was like, that's it.
That's
Just
how it
because
starts.
you can roll 6s, Ashley. But that's how I get her. Is I gotta let her win a little bit. Just
Well, so
feed.
I think this is a good thing to talk about. We're discussing ways that we all got into the hobby. Let's talk about ways that you can help get others into the hobby, into the world.
Absolutely.
So we talked about demos. They are difficult to do, but if you here's the thing I'll say. Find the passion that that person has. What are they going to be interested in? Because as you mentioned, this hobby in general is like 50 different hobbies. And the truth is they don't have to do all of them. Well, they don't have to do any of them.
Yeah.
But you can do just part of it. And also, in time, that can lead to others. So if they want to just paint maybe, or if they just want to play, like figure out who they are as a person. So like, Mel, for example, now she plays, and she likes kind of tactical games and things like that. She's not a D&D person. She does not like doing like those more like soft skills RPGs. So likes the tactics. But originally she started by being drawn to wanting to paint the models, right? And I also was like, okay, I in my head have like the whole library of all the different models and like what models I'm going to try to show her, and kind of figure out what is she interested in. She started looking at Harlequins and Eldar. And that was kind of also a nightmare to play. So, like, we still have some nicely painted Eldar, but then finding out, okay, it's like she likes Sigmar stuff more. She likes the beasts, the animals, and looking at those models and being like, look, again, no pressure, but like, here's the models if you want to paint them, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then eventually she came to to the point now where she literally streams games of this on the internet and really enjoys playing the game. But I think it's just like finding a thing that you think they might be interested in it and being okay with them maybe just doing that one part and accepting that. Not everyone's insane like us.
No.
And that's a good starting point, right?
Yeah, I mean, even Lindris91, you know, I see you started with the Westhammer videos. Again, like a lot of lore tubers have also been very responsible for getting a lot of us into it because, you know, the first thing when you kind of are introduced to this, you know, someone might mention a faction or a Space Marine chapter or something, and you immediately go to like the Wikipedia on it or something like that, and like the lore tubers are really helping because they do show those videos and they give you little tidbits and their own little takes and stuff like that, and that can obviously also immerse you into it as well.
Oh, it's huge. And I think it's funny, Wikipedia for me is like such a good, or the wikis in general, like fandoms and things like that, are really good for lore, and those creators, and what Wes does as well is like they're kind of short and digestible, because there's a lot of media out there for Warhammer. There's a lot of books which are I don't think are the best, but they might make for a good description. Like the overall event that happened is cool and compelling, and when you have those little blurbs and it kind of condenses it down to like the essence of like this is what happened at this planet and this campaign, you're like that's cool, and that makes you want to look into it more and check out the things where maybe you are reading the whole book or watching the whole series or whatever, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Lindris says, I was co-owner of a game store at the time, almost 100% Magic in 2020. I got the 9th edition starter box and just kept going. Yes, I love it.
That's, I mean, that's where I jumped on. I was watching 8th edition battle reports, left, right, and center, and I was like, I am ready. And I bought the Indominus box because 9th edition literally just launched, and then they're like, it's all 9th edition. I was like, cool, I got to figure out what changed. So, but it was a great gateway into it because I watched a ton of battle reports, and like that's what a role you guys now serve, and it's a role that a lot of others serve now is the you know, seeing the battle reports, understanding the rules, and also seeing the fun, right? Like when it's just, you know, nitty gritty. You know, it is a social game, and it's fun when you're having fun. Which should be self-explanatory in itself. Like it's fun when you're having fun, right?
Sometimes people need reminding of that, unfortunately, because they're like, we like to be competitive, you know.
We do, but you can do both. You can do both.
Exactly. Thanks, John, again for the super chat. They say, what was everyone's first White Dwarf? Mine was the 250s when they had the flip covers with Lord of the Rings on the back cover with content. They were also doing the Index Astartes, which was rules for all chapters. Oh, that's awesome.
Man.
First White Dwarf. First White Dwarf. It was definitely, I think, mid, like I want to say 2020 or the 200s or 2025s, 225s.
Yeah.
A couple like specific editions that really stood out to me were, those Lord of the Rings covers, the Lustry campaign with the Skaven and the Lizard Men. I remember actually having that White Dwarf when I was staying at my grandparents' house and like just like looking through all the pictures.
That's awesome.
And then one of the other ones that was super influential on me, which I actually later went and bought, was the Eye of Terror campaign, where they have the introduction of Poxwalkers. They were just play zombies at the time. And it was like how to take guardsmen and Warhammer zombies and convert them. And they did this like,
that's awesome.
You know, 300 of them on this battle. It was so cool. So there's a few of those that were like super, super informative.
That's a good one. I don't know numbers.
Okay. Yeah.
But I remember there was one. There was a White Dwarf that covered the attack on Lake Lethis for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Because that was the home of the Anvils of the Heldenhammer, my favorite storm host.
Yeah.
Because they're just like they're the like extremely veteran, like ancient souls that Sigmar took, and it had rules for Linus Galmorian, who was their leader, and it was essentially just the caster on the Griffin. Like that, it was just that model. But they painted him up to be that, and I remember like picking that up and like that being core memory because it had how to paint the Anvils of the Heldenhammer, and it had his rules so I could play him, and I adored that as like a supplemental thing so that I could play the storm host that didn't have rules for it, and like I had a quote unquote chapter master and everything, and it was. Like that one really stuck out in my mind because I love seeing the pictures of like the night hunt everywhere and everything, and of course, which eventually led to Catacross, one of my also favorite death factions, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
Death.
Yeah, death indeed. But yeah, so like that one definitely stuck out to me.
Let's see. My first and only White Dwarf is 481 from my friendly local gaming store. Accidentally got the French version delivered. Shop owner was just handing them out, so I have my own copy of Le Roi.
Le Roi.
Yes.
Le Games Workshop.
It's so good. Yeah.
I was gonna try and figure out, but like I don't think Blanco is the same. I only know the Spanish version.
It is blanc.
Et blanc.
It's blanc. It's close.
Les blancs tours.
Le nain blanc.
Oh yeah, les blancs blanc. That's right, because the adjective goes after.
Exactly.
Can you tell I've only taken a trimester of certain languages?
I think you killed it. Remember 13th Black Crusade was still happening? Yep. Makes sense.
Awesome.
I've collected since the 80s, never played 40K, but I have a huge amount of fantasy, and I just like to paint 40K to relax.
Absolutely.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, there's just so much cool, like, just being part of it is great and awesome. And I really encourage people to, like, just do that. You know, it's totally cool.
It is.
Honestly, my first White Dwarf was the edition for my Harlequins to have expanded rules and Psychic Awakening. Oh, what a great time.
Yeah.
Sorry for them. Sorry, I'm just reading chat now.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's up, Krychek? Welcome on in. Number 3 in Spain, 94 or 95. I thought it was a Hero Quest magazine. Old school.
Okay.
That's great.
Deep cuts. See, that's just it. It's like I feel old, but then like I hop in here and I feel like a baby.
You are a baby.
I am. I am a wargaming baby.
You're talking about Sigmar being your first thing.
That's and that was the ironic part, because obviously like the first thing I learned was Total Warhammer, which was Warhammer Fantasy Battles.
Yeah.
And so then when I was like, oh yeah, I'm looking at the Lizardmen. They're like, well, they're called Seraphon now. They don't exist anymore. They're just remembered. And I was just like, okay.
How was that jump for you? Like,
that was interesting because I remember like, you know, hearing that certain factions were still there, not there, or they changed and stuff like that. And, you know, we had kind of already talked about it as well, like where I jumped in second. And so like one of the things I did for my first, ironically, my first models were 40K. But my first 2,000 points was Seraphon. And I played in Age of Sigmar 2nd Edition RTT, and that's where I met a lot of people from my local community. Shout out to the Mankato community. That's where I played that one. But I remember I like dry brushed my bases like blue, because then they're like being remembered and they're celestial and stuff like that. But I also remember reading the short story where it had talked about like the Seraphon coming back into like permanent existence and stuff like that. And I remember picking up the 3rd edition specific codex that talked about how they were landing their temple ships and terraforming them in the jungles no matter where they were landing. It just immediately sucked me in. So it was kind of jarring to go from the Total War Warhammer Fantasy Battle to that, but also it's like it's the same in its core.
Exactly. Then that's interesting, because I think obviously a lot of people at the time struggle with that, but they maybe also had some more baggage. And so for you, you're able to kind of see that and recognize like, same thing, same energy. Yeah. I want to be part of this and I want to do this. So, you know, let's make the jump.
Well, and it's now, I feel like it's finally kind of hit its stride now where we understand a lot more about the world, because we now have more books about it. They've done a really good job with even 4th edition, like explaining how the realms work and how they connect and interact with each other and stuff like that. So I think it's being fleshed out, and it still maintains that grimdark vibe. If you really read into some of that, like, you know, the people in Hammerall Aksha, which is like the realm of fire, they're just choking down ash and smoke all day because they're a forge and they make stuff, but they have a giant realm gate that leads into Gyron, where like they get all their like their produce and stuff like that. And so it's like, and seeing like some of the artwork and it's a grander scale. It's a high fantasy, and like it's managed to pull me in because it has very good grounded stories. The Vendenst books are some of my favorites as well. Those two are incredible.
I heard cool things.
Because witch hunters, like, can't go wrong with witch hunters.
Oh God, what a classic! Thank you, Vought, for the gifted membership. Appreciate it. And then we have a super chat again from T. Thank you. Which was the model that made it for you? I was flabbergasted by Thousand Suns and Death Guard. But when I first saw the silly Bellman, I was sold. The Noxious Blightbringer was the one that sealed the deal for me. That's really funny. Oh my goodness.
This one's gonna hurt.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Let us know, chat.
Yep.
First model that really sealed it. I'm
just doom scrolling in my own head right now through all my models. That really sealed the deal.
Oh man. This is...
I think for me, it's gonna have to be the Old Blood and Carnosaur.
Oh, okay.
Because specifically, especially like later after the first Total War Warhammer came out, they got Total War Warhammer 2, which of course introduced the Lizardmen, which are my favorite.
Great.
And
they're fun to play.
I loved Krokgar. Krogar was my boy
so
with
sick.
Grimlock, and they still left his fate open-ended. We know Grimlock died, but we don't, like, Krogar was like running after the temple ship. So if GW, if you're seeing this, please just bring back my boy.
Yes.
Bring back
Bring him
Krogar,
back.
because he was such a, and like, he really sold you the scale of this thing and like the pose and everything. So I mean, especially early on.
Yeah.
That one, I saw it and it just locked me in. Obviously, I have this feeling multiple times. Same happened with the Lion model release.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this was like, it was simple, but it was perfect.
Yeah.
And that's what absolutely sold me on that as well.
Absolutely agree. I think, well, you mentioned a good point, which is that you kind of have multiple of these moments.
Oh, absolutely.
Throughout your career, throughout your hobby career. So my first 40K army, other than, well, kind of Space Marines because we had Space Marines, but was Eldar, actually. The old Craft World Eldar starter box with the cool Dire Avenger on the cover. And then, but the first one that, as I kind of like figured out what I wanted was Emperor's Children. And seeing those just wild contraptions of Noise Marines. And those were also some of my first kit bashes of like taking the backpacks of regular guys and cutting them up into speakers. And like, I still have a lot of them. We actually have a video buried somewhere on the channel where I talk about doing the updated version, and those were just like the coolest, craziest thing to me. And I don't even know if I got any until significantly later.
Especially since it was a wave that didn't exist, like a proper wave that didn't exist until now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wasn't a thing. So it was like this opportunity to convert and do this cool thing. And like we were looking at sprue conversions earlier. I have weird sprue things from being, you know, whatever age I was at the time. So cool. But there were many throughout that.
Yeah, I think that's what keeps a lot of the hobby going is we don't just have that first moment, do we?
Yeah,
We have repeated moments. I mean, I don't know about any of you, but there's probably just like a massive amount of drool that hit the dirt when they unveiled the new Logan Grimnar.
Yeah.
Like everyone's just like, okay, and like even people who are just like, I don't play it for you. I'm getting that.
Yeah.
Like
just a great model.
Incredible. Like just so well designed and so and it was a blast to paint too, which was also fantastic. When you can create something that's that intricate, that dynamic, and it's that easy to like pick up and paint. Just
exactly.
The ace to the homework.
Now we've kind of touched on something throughout. I'm going to create a poll for it because I'm curious.
Yeah.
I think we are many of us are fans of mini games, multiple systems, multiple settings, but I feel like in your heart of hearts, you're either fantasy or a sci-fi person.
Oh God, here we go.
I'll make it broad. I won't say Warhammer Fantasy or 40K, but like fair. Fantasy or sci-fi. So
fantasy
I'm curious.
Or sci-fi. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I know what yours is, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
Let's see what does your heart.
Where does your heart truly believe?
Yeah.
Yeah. What does your heart truly desire?
And it is fantasy or sci-fi. So let us know. I'll also make a poll for it.
Yeah. And actually, ironically, I only have one episode of this out on my channel, but it was a blast. I had my sister, who's obviously been the recipient of many of my conversations at this point, but like I did find your faction thing, and so even if it's just they're not actually going to do it, I just like to ask the questions. And like one of my first questions is fantasy or sci-fi, and I ask like, i.e., Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, like that kind of, and then that leads in a certain direction. And my sister's like, "Oh, Lord of the Rings," and so I like led down that road, and then we go through like like a couple of different factions and stuff like that. And she adores the Sylvaneth. Yeah. So at some point, I've got to buy my sister. I've got to buy her Alariel.
Oh no!
She's the artist one, so I'm curious how she's gonna do with the 3 dimensions.
That would be so cool.
Which I do absolutely plan on making a video of that. So hopefully I can get that done.
I also love when people who like aren't necessarily like in the hobby try something out, especially if they have like these outside skills already, right?
Yeah.
And seeing what they can do with it. You know, like I think we mentioned this the other day. We were talking about like when Mel first started hobbying Harlequins, for example, and she goes to do basing, and she got this like shattered glass. This is not a joke. Literally shattered glass, and was gluing them onto her Harlequin bases. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, this is how I imagined the warp would be represented." And I was like, "What? That's crazy." I was like, "But you can't do that." And she's like, "Why?" I was like, "I don't know. That's crazy. You can't put shattered glass as your base. Like I've never seen basing
could you pick up those models for me real quick?
Yeah, she's like, But it looked really cool, and it was unique, and she didn't have these preconceptions that we all have as gamers of like, you got to have your tufts or your whatever. So it's cool to see how outsiders kind of approach that and bring something new to us.
Yep. I see, and Funny Devastator brings up a
Yeah.
good point. This is also a kind of a splitting point, but because rules-wise, 40K, miniatures
yeah.
definitely AOS. And I think that's always interesting too, because I get a lot of the same thing in my local club, where there's a lot of 40K players who never play AOS, they're never going to, but they'll still watch the AOS releases. Like when they saw Talia Vedra
oh my gosh,
on the Manticore, they were just like, okay, that wins.
Here's the thing. I think generally speaking, for me, the Sigmar sculpts are overall better. They have way more bangers. They have amazing centerpieces. Like I like their sculpts better. Storytelling and world building, I have found fantasy to be more successful. So I connect with like Lord of the Rings, for example.
Yeah.
But I think I'm a sci-fi guy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And obviously, maybe that's a bit of 40K, maybe it's a bit of Star Wars, but I think I don't know. I think there's more compelling fantasy genres in general that tell you stories about people and characters rather than fighting and technology.
Yeah.
And that has to do very much with like the themes that those things exist in. So
100%.
I think I'm like deep down I'm a sci-fi person, but when I think about like the fandoms that I'm really connected to, other than 40K, the big one, it's more fantasy. But I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I kind of agree, because I think that there is something so enthralling about a fantasy story. There's something that just like pulls you into it. But I mean, I truly love. Like I'm right where the chat is right now. I'm at 50-50.
No, 50. We are so split.
I truly love both
votes.
so deeply, because each one does something different for me. Really. Like I mean, when I do love like my very like grimdark, like my Judge Dredd, like stuff like that. Like I've always been drawn to those darker stories to them. But I feel like fantasy can have so many different themes and experiences. I mean, you get like, and even the sci-fi side does get some of those fantasy themes, like vampires, stuff like that, and then it pulls it in. I mean, it's this might break me for the next hour. This is gonna stick.
I think I mean it's so much of the way that these stories are told is so different. Like sci-fi just it tries to be so edgy sometimes. I mean, there's a reason we talk about like Aaron Dembski Bowden and Dan Abnett and stuff like that more than we do necessarily other authors, because they approach them as characters and these relationships. You know, like I recently become obsessed with Gaunt's Ghosts. I'm on book like 7 right now. And because I've been powering through Horus Heresy, and there are good Horus Heresy books, I'm not gonna say they're all bad.
There are some great Horus Heresy books, but to your point,
there's a lot of like things where they abstract things, and they're talking about like, oh, and then this planet, these many soldiers were attacking, and blah blah, and it's just like so abstract, and it's not about characters, or the characters are so hard to connect with because they're genetically modified space marines that live for hundreds of years, and so these emotions are different. And then I'm like going to Gaunt's Ghost, and it's like these are like actual human characters, and I'm learning more about the world and the day-to-day life than I've learned about in the last 30 Horus Heresy books that I've read about.
Well,
and I'm just like, oh, it's so
you'd
nice.
think the story would also be more compelling, because Horus Heresy is nothing if not a Shakespearean tragedy. Right? It's almost Macbeth in a lot of ways, like this promised person, and then just like being twisted and. Like I think that's why, to your point, Dan Abnett is so celebrated and Dembski Bowden, because they do such a good job of writing these characters that intrinsically you're supposed to dislike, but they create such relatable moments for them, even though they are these super soldiers that will live forever and think nothing of normal mortals or whatever. And I think that's what's really compelling, is who do you have writing your source and how are they approaching it? Because fantasy, you can have fantastical creatures who have a lot of the same aspects, but it's always usually approached from like a ground level. Exactly. It's about how does the writer feel about the Griffin and their relationship and their facts. That's what it ends up being. One of my most favorite recent stories is On the Shoulders of Giants, which is a new one, which follows basically an old artilleryman in the cities of Sigmar and his ogre Slabda. He's like the free guild captain on the Fusilier on the ogre. And he talks about his relationship with Slabda, and like Slabda eats like after battles, like eats up like the buck, and they're like haunted by like these Skaven, and he's like he has like a sniper fight, like enemy at the gates sniper fight with another Skaven sharpshooter and stuff like that. And it does such a good job of like putting you into there with these fantastical elements and making it so human. But again, to the point, on the sci-fi flip side, like the Night Lords. The Night Lord story and Talos and how relatable he is, and like the reason he's called, Soul Hunter and stuff like that, and like it even takes a second to make Conrad a relatable character, which if you just read the clip notes on him,
you think it's impossible.
He looks like a psycho.
How can you humanize someone like that? But they do. I absolutely agree. And I want to talk about the Shakespearean thing in just a moment. I want to thank Lol Chaos for the super chat. Thank you. Went to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament at local game store at age 10. Saw people playing Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Next thing I know, I'm 33 years old and playing AOS and 40K. Yeah, I love it.
My man.
Oh man, time flies when you're having fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's literally how it goes. Yeah. It's almost 8+ years now. I get in Facebook memories all the time. It's just like me and my buddy painting, and when I got him hooked into Death Watch, it's insane.
And I think for a lot of people, this is what happens. You see it, and you either get it or you don't. You know, you're like, see the thing, you see the models on the table, see someone playing, you're like, I want that. I want to be part of that. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, it's hard to explain, you know?
Yeah.
So, but to the Shakespearean point, the original books, the Horse Rising, actually is based off of the Shakespeare's version of Caesar.
Yep.
I was actually reading the first book while I was in high school, while we were reading Caesar. And I was like, holy, like the festival of Lupercal and all the stuff, and like down to like individual namings and even chapters in it. I was like, it's literally, this is Shakespeare.
Somebody copied someone's homework.
I was like, what? This is nuts. It was so cool, and maybe give me a better appreciation for both, frankly.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
this reminds me of Horace Lupercal, teacher.
I mean, if anything, it's also, I mean, for someone like myself who is working my way towards starting heresy, it actually is what locked me into the Sons of Horus, as I loved this tragedy. I loved this compelling story of this like paragon character, and like even as you investigate more of his background, you're just like, how much of this is real, how much of this is made up, because like he's supposedly Chthonian, but like the Chthonians talk about how his accent has always been rough or something like that. So it is always interesting how they create those dynamics between those characters, and it is just inevitably compelling. Also because you have the corrupt character, you have Horace Lupercal, and then you have Garviel Loken. The true loyalist, and the one who actually just wants to save his gene father.
Exactly.
It's good storytelling, and I think that's reflected in the poll being as close as it is.
So close.
Is because I think we all have that story that like we really latch onto, that you're like, this is incredible. Like you're gripped. You're always turning the next page. You're like, I should go to bed, but one more chapter. Yeah. And that's incredible.
Precisely. That was me last night. Cobra Commander, great question. How about Middle-earth strategy battle game? So, you know what? I've been remiss because I really should mention the Lord of the Rings game more than we have already, because for me it was actually hugely influential. Lord of the Rings in general, and when I talk about fantasy series, I think of two things. I think about Lord of the Rings, and I think of Dragonlance, and those were the two big things that really kind of got me into this world. And Lord of the Rings was also how I met Shane. I literally met him, we were in band, of course, a couple of band nerds, both playing trombone, and it's like first day of band, 6th grade, and I just hear this person next to me, he's like, hey, you dare me to put this dwarf in this trombone? And I was like, what? And I look over, and there's Shane, he's got a little blister pack. No, I think it wasn't even the blister pack, he was just holding the like lead dwarf.
Oh, God.
Unpainted. And he's got a little Games Workshop dwarf, and I was like, "Oh my God, this guy knows Games Workshop stuff." And obviously, I was like, "Yeah, you should definitely put that in the trombone."
Absolutely.
Skip forward to 45 minutes later, we're explaining to the band teacher why there's a dwarf stuck in the trombone. And then fast forward to the end of the school year, where we are doing our custom fellowship on the deck outside, and we're fighting the Balrog with all the different characters as you do, and was just hugely influential. And
massively.
The behind the scenes of the Lord of the Rings movies was also very influential on me just getting into filmmaking in general.
Well, and now we also have the multiple documentaries that show like the war, like specifically like 40K and all these other Warhammer properties are now where they are because of Middle-earth strategy battle game, which I am perpetually grateful for, because I still, like, I remember seeing those miniatures getting launched, and my best friend, his brother had some of those models, and I didn't even make the connection at that time when I was a kid. And and it is kind of insane, like how that's bridged everyone over to this thing and how much it injected into that.
Exactly, and you mentioned this earlier, Lord of the Rings films being so important at the time because it was like a very successful big fantasy movie. Obviously, we'd had fantasy movies before, but it was not half as common as it is today, right?
No.
And oh shoot, I just totally lost my train of thought. Lord of the Rings, important because
won Best Picture. I mean, it had a record for most Academy Awards at one point.
Yeah. Wow, totally lost it. Oh yes, because we talked about this loop: painting, building, whatever, reading, and I think for a lot of us, the Lord of the Rings, the film, helped us connect that loop where it was like watching those got us pumped up for painting or playing, and it was something you could recognize that was not very common. I mean, if you told me there's going to be a good D&D movie out in 2025, I'd be like, you're crazy. But here we are, and those things ran. So Lord of the Rings walked so these people could run, and at the time it was like, okay, they're not quite the GW orcs, but they are orcs, and I like that.
And not to mention the fact that it's even insane to think about the fact that like New Line Cinema greenlit all 3 movies.
Yeah.
Like, and he shot them back to back.
That's a bold move,
like
very brave.
Year and a half, 2 years of like just straight shooting and stuff like that. But like, it did open up that gate, and now we have like Dune. Yeah, before that, all we had was the Lynch one.
The Lynch one. Hey, you don't talk to me about David Lynch.
I won't say anything.
Not in my house.
No, I will say nothing. But like, it's something that started this thing, and you get to see these different interpretations of it, and you get to see this evolution of it. And I mean, we talked about it. Like, Denis Villeneuve is one of my favorite directors of all time, and it's because he did such a good job capturing that. And you can see elements of 40K in Dune. You can see elements of like the origins of these other things and these other properties. You read Horse Rising and you saw Julius Caesar.
Well, I mean, Dune and Foundation are both 40K. 40K just stole both of those things. It's like, let's be real. It's literally, there's an emperor in Foundation. It's the whole shebang, and it's great, and so we're in a totally different world, which is exciting. I want to thank Jupiter for the super chat. Very much appreciate it. Jupiter says, I had good mentors starting out. I got advice early on that if you don't like a model, you can convert it into something new. ABC, always be converting. Words to the wise. And that speaks to, I think, a lot of the theme today, which is finding your passion, finding the thing that inspires you or the person you're interested in becoming part of this, and follow that. Don't be told that you need to do any specific thing.
Yeah.
Not even by us. No. Like, do the thing that you want to do that's related to this. I think it's fantastic.
Yep, and then we have some people talking about didn't get into D&D until Neverwinter Nights.
Oh, Neverwinter Nights.
Neverwinter Nights. I remember playing Baldur's Gate, the OG Baldur's Gate.
Yes.
That was its own thing in its entirety. Gosh. Diablo, OG Diablo was a big one for a lot of people. I know one friend who still plays nonstop Diablo 2.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, that was one of my first video game experiences was seeing my dad play Diablo 1, which I definitely should not have seen.
We've all had that moment.
Yeah.
When you're just like 13 and just like, oh, what's this? And Dad's just like, let me show you.
Yeah. And Dragonlance Chronicles, but it was in Barnes & Noble. They had done this really smart thing. They took these adult books, definitely readable if you're like a young kid, but like they were full of books, and they just took them and they just chopped them in half, so half the length. And they put cool covers on the front and put them in the kids section in Barnes & Noble.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it worked great. Funny enough, we had Gen Con this last weekend. Margaret Weiss was there doing signings, and I totally missed her until the very end where there was no more like copies to buy and get signed. I was like, oh my God, it's Margaret Weiss. This is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this is, and that's just it. It's like, on a very, I mean, we can get to the very core of this even now. There's no wrong way to get into any of this. I think there's often a lot of new players who ask, like, where do I get started? And I would honestly say just what draws you in. Like, if it's the models, then pick up a box of models that like looks cool to you. Just do that. Or if you're just like, oh, I really love the stories, it's like, okay, let's find you a book to read or something like that. And it's brought this massive community together, and it's the reason why it keeps getting bigger, because we're all finding our own thing within it, and I think that's what makes it so compelling. Is it's no longer three-dimensional. It's not print, tabletop, whatever. It's now print, tabletop, website, movie, show. Like, it's expanded on. So audio. I love let me tell you right now, the Space Wolves collection on Audible is hands down one of the best collections on Audible, because they have sound effects. It has everything it has, and like it has still one of my favorite audiobooks, which is it's the one that's Bjorn specifically. And it talks about his internment. So like it opens up with him fighting a Nurgle demon prince and like downing it, and then like knows he's gonna die, and it goes through like them saving him, and he like goes into his mind and he remembers the time that Lehman told him,
That's so cool.
not you,
Yeah.
and like how offended he was, and it's like so well voice acted. I will seriously,
cool.
I've never undownloaded it from my phone because I will occasionally just pop back in and just play it all over again.
So cool.
It's such a good, it's so good.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Yeah, Shane, you should get into Warhammer. I recommend.
Basic, you know, just and if you're curious about like how you should get into Warhammer, just listen to the last hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll give you a good idea.
That's all you'll ever need. Well, folks, we've actually gone over time because we've been having such a great discussion. I'm going to end the poll. Oh,
it's 50-50.
Right, I'm closing my eyes. It's going to be 3, 2, 1. Deet. All right, where do we end up? Oh, sci-fi barely,
Yeah,
but very close. And I think that's
very,
interesting.
very
You know,
close.
like we are a channel that does mostly sci-fi. Obviously, we do Age of Sigmar, but even despite that fact, for these things to be so close
is incredible.
speaks a lot to it.
Absolutely.
So this has been an amazing chat. Oh, you know, Floof.
Mel, instructions unclear. Warhammer is taking over my life.
So true. Floof, you said something earlier. I just didn't get a chance to see it. I got in at the end of 8th. Magic Group was looking into it, and the guy in my local shop said, based off of me liking Boros, I would like Tyranids. Looked at the starting box and fell in love with the Trigon. That's awesome.
Yep.
And now you have the ultimate Boros, which is 1,000 Gene Stealer Cultists.
Oh my god. Oh Lord.
Classic.
Insane.
But truly, folks, this has been a lovely time chatting. Of course, if you haven't already, check out link below. Got Tattoo Tabletop on YouTube, where you can see all the really cool stuff that's going on there, and lots more to come. And if you want to catch us very soon, we are going to be setting up shortly for our 3 p.m. Game. This is going to be the Templars with Helbrecht versus the Grey Knights with Lil B playing. So I am excited. Lil B is in good health. He is back in the studio. It's going to be a great time. So yeah, definitely check it out. And if you're watching this after the fact, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear what got you into this hobby, what you're interested in. What does your heart say?
What was your poll vote?
Fantasy or sci-fi? Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you again for absolutely having me. This is fantastic.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for us. We'll catch y'all next time on the tabletop. Bye.
Bye.